Hello, all my wonderful art friends. Today we're talking about printmaking. And printmaking is the process of making a print. I know that seems kind of silly, but a print is a picture that you didn't draw or paint. Instead, you did something else and then press the paper on top of it, and then you get a print. So for example, this stamp used to be a piece of rubber that someone actually carved into. And if I put ink on the stamp and then I press it on a piece of paper, I end up with a picture. But I didn't actually draw or paint this picture. All I did was press something on the paper and I ended up with a print. That's kind of what printmaking is. Everybody say printmaking. Very good. So the type of printmaking that we're doing today is called a monoprint. And a monoprint is a type of print that you only get to do once and then the image goes away. So our monoprinting today is going to start with you guys getting one sheet of paper. So I've got my one sheet of paper and you need to write your name on the back. That way, when your print is ready, you don't have to waste time writing your name. So here, I've got Mrs. Rule on my paper. And then here's what your setup looks like. At your table, you guys are going to be sharing trays. On these trays, you've got your plate. Everybody say plate. Very good. And this is what you're going to be drawing your image on and then pressing your paper on top. So our plate is kind of like our stamp. And then our paper is what the image ends up on. So again, this is our plate. And I taped these on, so hopefully they don't move at all. And you've got another piece of clear plastic over here. It's a square. This is called your ink tray. Everybody say ink tray. Very good. Your ink tray always has to stay on this big tray. That way we can slide it around the table easily. We have a couple more things that we are using today. Of course, we have our brayer. Everybody say brayer. Very good. The brayer kind of looks like a roller, but how you hold it is you put it in your hand like this, so you're holding on top of the brayer, and then you put it on top of your ink, and you roll like this. So when you're rolling, you should always see this black stripe. If you turn it around, it won't really work. And this doesn't work very well. So we're looking for that black stripe on top when we roll. These are some things that we're going to be using to make our monoprints. I'll talk about those in just a sec. The other thing that you need is your ink. Everybody say ink. Now, ink is kind of like paint, except it's going to be very, very sticky. You'll be able to hear that in a minute. So your first thing that you are doing is you're going to hold your brayer and you're going to roll it in your ink, and then you're going to move all the ink over to your plate until the plate is covered. So here's what that looks like. I'm going to hold my ink tray because sometimes it wants to move and wiggle around. So I'm going to roll in the ink, and you're going to see everywhere that I've rolled ink is going to turn the brayer that color. The ink is also super shiny. So I'm trying to cover my whole brayer. I don't want any of these extra spaces sticking out. Kind of like when we color all of our white spaces on a paper. And I don't know if you guys can hear, but it sounds sticky. And you'll be able to tell where you have ink because the ink is also shiny. If you are a friend who's printing second or maybe third or fourth, you'll be able to tell if you have ink on your brayer or not based on how shiny it is. Once you have all the ink on your brayer, you're going to come over and you're going to roll it on your plate. Ooh, you can definitely hear how sticky it is now. And we're trying to keep our ink just on our plate. If you accidentally get it on your tray, it's not a huge deal, but we don't want that ink to end up on the corners of our paper by accident. Oh yeah, you can definitely hear it now. Hear how sticky that ink is. It kind of sounds like paint rolling a wall, if you ever painted a house or helped. All right, so now that all the corners of my plate are yellow, they're that color, I'm gonna put the brayer back on the ink tray so it doesn't get all dirty or gross on the table. And now I need to draw my monoprint. And this is drawing fast, so let's go over our tools. This is just a regular piece of cardboard. You can use this to take parts of your ink off, so you can just kind of scrape like this. You can also make cool designs if you hold it and you twist it like this. So there's part of a circle. I bet, ooh, if I turn it like this, I can make like half of a circle. Ooh, yeah, that looks really cool. I'm gonna do one more up here. Oops. So we're not really trying to make anything with our monoprints. They're gonna end up looking pretty abstract, and that's okay. All right, since this is dirty, I'm gonna put it right on top of my tray. If you want to draw anything, we're gonna use a tool that looks like this. We're gonna use the pointy end. I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna draw some lines coming down on this side. If you want to write something with this tool, that's fine, but anything you write is gonna come out backwards. I'll show you on this side. I'll draw some C's. So I'm drawing some C's next to each other, and we'll see how they look when they come out. So our other tools that we're using today, you can use a toothbrush if you want, kind of like our paper. That's gonna take parts of the ink off, but it also leaves kind of a different texture. It almost looks like something blowing in the wind, little pieces of hair. And the last thing you guys can use are called these texture combs. They have these teeth in them, and kind of like the thick cardboard, they'll remove parts of your print. So if I lay that on top and drag, you can see what's gonna happen. And I'm kind of going on top of my C's. I didn't really want that. So let's just go up here. All right, once you've drawn your design on your plate, now's when the magic's gonna happen. You're gonna take your paper that hopefully you already wrote your name on, and you're gonna try and press it down so it's in the middle. If you mess up and it's a little off center, don't move it because you're already printing. All that ink is already rubbing off on your paper. So now I'm just gonna take my fingertips and I'm gonna give my paper a nice little back massage. Oops! That's why we don't wanna get ink around, because we don't wanna get it on the edges of our paper. Ooh, I'll try and avoid that. So I'm massaging and massaging, trying to move all that ink. And now it's time to pull our print. So we're gonna grab it by the corner and we're gonna peel it off. Ooh, and here is my monoprint. How cool. And see, friends, my C's ended up backwards, even though I wrote them the right way. So anything you want to actually write, you need to write it backwards. All right, now that I'm done, my monoprint is going to go on a drying rack. And the next friend, if they have their name on their paper, they need to cover this up again. So they would roll the brayer in the ink. Again, you can see we need more ink on the brayer right now because it's not super shiny. So I'm gonna roll it in the ink, and then the next friend would just cover up the design so they can make their own print. And that is called monoprinting.